Hey there. As always, this is for entertainment purposes only. I'm merely sharing my story in the hopes that you'll work on your own journey to accepting your own ish, as I always call it, and radically accepting yourself. This is not meant to provide any health, legal, or financial advice. Should you need any assistance, use your own discernment and reach out to the right person for professional expertise. I have to say that. I know you're sick of hearing that. So, after my hard work on analyzing my own lessons and learning from my past relationships, sexuality, and what I thought about religion and how the universe operates, I felt much lighter and encouraged to do better, to be better. I was ready to start working and circling back and bring more joy into my life in both the present and the future. I knew that I needed to work very hard on how to let go, accept my past for what it was, and integrate the new lessons about myself and how I wanted to operate moving forward. I was extending my discipline of longer meditations and was now freely setting the intent before those sessions. My take on it was just asking a question for insight during the times for those of you unfamiliar with the concept. Again, I don't know if that's the right way to do it, that's just the way I do it. I just sent the intent for me to receive any insights that the universe wanted to provide me on circling back to really living joyfully. I realized I had spent the greater part of my life thinking about the future and decided that I really needed to just focus on the present, living my fullest in 24-hour segments, and focus on using all my senses and what I was experiencing fully. Basically, being fully seated in the now and experiencing everything that was surrounding my world, the smells, the sound, the experiences, everything, just basically using my senses. I started with the things that always made me happy. Think of it as anything that raised my energy vibrations. I picked back up photography, hiked more, and listened to really high vibing music. Music always resonated with me. I listened to music from all over the place. I started every day with counting up what I was thankful for in the present moment. Even if it was tough on some days, I just started with gratitude for the small things. And it got way easier every day. And I found that it just started off the day on the right foot. It helped me start honing my philosophy that when a thought comes, to look at it objectively, to basically observe it, detached if you will, and then assess whether the thought was coming from a place of fear or ego, or if it was in my flow state, if you will, basically a positive thought for my best and highest good. That's what I mean by flow state. If it was positive or in my flow state, I embraced it and engaged with it. That's it. Pretty simple. Had to start with the simple things, one foot in front of the other. And every day I was feeling lighter and enjoying life more. And the world around me started to react differently to me. In essence, they were mirroring my lighter and brighter energy back to me. I noticed that on one particular day, within 5 minutes walking down the street, I had 5 men hitting on me, and they were lovely interactions. Then at my local store, I had a boy who was local store in Costa Rica at the time, who was about 7 years old, who was working on his English. He declared that I was going to be his new best friend. He was so cute. So every day he practiced his English on me, and I practiced my terrible Spanish on him. We would talk about our respective days, and I had a lot of fun regaling him with pictures of what I had gotten into for the day that I found in my hikes. One of those cool pictures was an eyelash viper that I literally almost face planted into. And that in itself was quite new. My brain had literally processed that eyelash viper that was right in my face as beautiful, yellow, and quite the sight, instead of a terrifying snake that could have quickly ended my life if I hadn't all of a sudden noticed him right in front of me on the trail. I was loving these new vibes. And I also realized how much I was loving my new work schedule that I'd committed to, and realizing how much being off contributed to making me a better person and actually a better coach. I worked daily on my self-talk. It was something I really needed to work on. Literally saying at least one, out loud affirmation around being worthy of everything that I wanted. I was finally taking an active role in owning and feeling myself, loving myself, instead of looking at others for the validation. I was really finally focusing on giving myself the love that I gave out so freely to everyone else in my life, And the more I did it, the more I was actually feeling myself. At first, I felt like a fraud, going in the mirror, saying nice things to myself, felt like an idiot. But actually, the more and more I did it, the more I realized I actually started to believe it, and it soaked in, and was starting to love life more. The simple things in life became more vibrant, and my daily experiences truly felt sweeter, as corny as that sounds. Nothing really substantial had changed around me, but I was noticing and appreciating the total of my experiences. So it actually did. Maybe for the first time in my life, it was a total mind shift for me. You know, when you're training a puppy and you give them little treats for good behavior, I felt like the universe was doing that for me. It just kept throwing good people and fun little things daily at me, like, good job, keep going, here's your dog biscuit. I was also at the time pushing through my fears about posting these videos. Now, again, I'm doing this chronologically, and so I'm about a year in arrears. I need to get going on this. I understand. I had those fears about posting these videos, fears about my privacy, my vulnerability, what people would think, negative self-talk, if you will. I'm someone who's traditionally been super private about my feelings, and many of the stories that I'm sharing here aren't even known by my friends and family. I came to terms with accepting that I'm human, and that I needed to share my story here in this way, as I knew if it helped just one person, I've said this before, I know. I knew if it helped one person on their journey of healing, then it was totally worth it. And I knew that I was meant to do it. I wanted to normalize owning your own ish, as I call it, and embracing all of the unique and authentic beauty within each person. So I just accepted it finally and decided that I was all in, and it was meant to be done. And so I continued to commit to the discipline of joy and worked on it every single day, like everything else I do. If I'm one thing, I'm grit and determination. And so joy needed to take its place in that grit and determination. I was thoughtful about making sure every single thought and everything that I focused on was filtered through the "is it kind to me" filter. I learned to be patient with myself, and I wrapped my head around things that they happen in divine timing when they were meant to. Now, I'm not the most patient girl, and I'm still learning that lesson. I logically just started to accept that I just didn't think like everyone else, and decided to stop feeling weird about it. I just accepted that being and thinking different was a part of my unique beauty. And I stopped worrying about what they say, society's inferred systems. And I just decided to operate from a place of what felt absolutely true to me. As long as I'm not hurting anybody, as long as I'm just me, I'm going to go with it, both in my intuition and my body, and let the rest take care of itself. I did some research on some downloads that I got about every single person having both masculine and feminine. An example of a masculine energy is kind of taking action, right? Fits into the stereotypes of what you think. An example of a feminine energy is being in a state of receiving or nurturing. Similarly, everyone has a balance of dark and light energies, kind of like without rain, you wouldn't have rainbows or appreciate the sunshine as much. And as I reflected on this, I wanted to strike a better balance within myself for both of those concepts and integrate them more, as well as to surrender to accepting all sides of myself, my true authentic self, and concentrated a little bit more on how things flowed versus when something had friction to it. Just as an example of the friction and the flow, because these are weird concepts. So for those of you who want to understand the concept a little bit, if you're trying to write something, for example, and it's just not working, go tackle another task that you're called to. So that would be friction. It's just not working, right? And allow yourself to just go do that if you can, focusing on where the flow is. And then ultimately, I find that something happens, whether a new insight or something happens to me that creates the flow for the initial task of writing. Kind of flow versus powering through it, if you will. I've always been a power through it kind of girl. And with this new concept, I found more joy, with it increasing every single day, more and more. I was changing my state of being, kind of turning it, if you will, with the discipline of paying attention to the joy and focusing on joy. In short, prioritizing joy. It's a weird concept. We don't really get trained to do it. We get trained to kind of suck up, do things, get it done. And really, my whole experience and my whole world was changing with understanding more about joy. I've told you in past videos, it's something I've struggled with my whole life. So I started concentrating on it and my world became happier. My hope for all of you listening to this video, focus this week on finding your own activities that bring you joy. This weekend, this coming week, do the little things for yourself that you normally do for everyone else, and prioritize joy for yourself. Until next time, I'll see you soon.